Totally Vegan here, and welcome to my video on how a whole food plant-based diet helps reduce the risk of diabetes. And without a doubt, this disease is a leading cause of death in America and one which continues to spiral out of control. But first, it's probably a good idea to bring everyone up to speed regarding the current thinking as to the actual causes of type 2 diabetes. Until I did the research for this video, I was thinking that it was totally focused on the overconsumption of foods with a high glycemic index like too much sugar and refined carbohydrates, and this in turn ultimately results in the burnout of one's pancreas in an attempt to produce enough insulin. Although true, it's more involved than that, and this new insight has gained a lot of momentum in about the last 2 decades or so. Apparently, there are multiple processes occurring which work in conjunction with one another to really get this disease up and running. And for sure, the overconsumption of highly refined carbs and sugar are definitely a factor. However, the driving force behind the development of type 2 diabetes is actually an increase of fat occurring inside the cells of muscle, liver, and pancreatic tissue. Normally, one would not encounter fat accumulating in these cells. Rather, the accumulation of fat, should it occur, would be in adipose tissue. But this excess fat, which is deposited inside muscle cells, can really cause trouble. And this is because it interferes with the ability of insulin from doing its job, which is to help arrange for the transportation of sugar molecules across the cell membrane of muscle cells so that sugar can be used as an energy source. So with this overview in mind, let's see how a whole food plant-based diet helps avoid this deadly disease. First, a plant-based diet helps clear the fat which is already accumulated inside muscle cells because it's the fat which is gumming up the works, so to speak, with regard to insulin not being able to do its job. Hence, insulin sensitivity is increased when the fat is gone. Thus, replacing high-calorie, saturated fat-laden animal foods with lower-calorie, high-fiber plant-based foods will force the body to utilize this excess fat for energy production. But your choice of protein is also a factor. As you may know, amino acids are the building blocks of protein, and human protein contains about 20 different kinds. But 3 of these amino acids, if consumed in abundance, are most consistently identified as predictors of future diabetes and insulin resistance. These 3 amino acids are referred to collectively as the branched chain amino acids. And although we cannot live without consuming these 3 amino acids, protein derived from plants is a much less concentrated source. And as you might suspect, meat and dairy reign supreme with regard to the branched chain amino acids. Yet more benefits of a plant-based diet are that it is fiber-rich, higher in volume, and is less calorie-dense. And for all of these reasons, plant-based diets lead to weight reduction, which is also key. And I learned of another interesting concept as I was doing the research for this video, and that is a low-fat, plant-based diet increases what is referred to as the thermic effect of food. This means that up to 18% of your caloric intake on a plant-based diet will be converted into heat production as opposed to fat storage. Obviously, this has implications for maintaining proper weight, which is also key for avoiding diabetes. In addition, by definition, a whole food plant-based diet will be avoiding an excess of sugar associated with highly processed food with high fructose corn syrup as the worst offender. And this too is another factor, as a high sugar intake not only will lead to pancreatic burnout by the continual production of insulin, But a high sugar intake also directly causes fat to accumulate in the liver. This happens because the liver has the capability of converting sugar, especially fructose, into fat, resulting in a condition referred to as non-alcoholic fatty liver disease. And this condition is most definitely a critical step towards developing type 2 diabetes. But there are still two very important factors for developing this disease which I've yet to mention, namely weight gain and a sedentary lifestyle. With regard to weight gain, a point is reached at which regular adipose tissue cannot hold any more fat. And given we have a finite number of fat cells, there comes a point when our fat cells are just maxed out, and any extra fat spills over into the bloodstream, and then this is picked up by muscle tissue, which only adds to the problem of excess fat where it shouldn't be. And finally, there's one key factor not related to diet, namely physical activity, or in the case of type 2 diabetes, physical inactivity. Without a doubt, engaging in a program of regular physical activity is hugely important when it comes to maintaining a healthy weight, as it puts the brakes on excess body fat spilling over into the muscle cells and liver. After all, humans did not evolve as a sedentary species, and if you choose to disregard 2 million years of human evolution by leading a sedentary lifestyle, you do so at your peril. So I hope you will consider ramping up your metabolic rate with a regular program of physical activity in addition to making wise nutritional choices with a whole food, plant-based diet. If you do so, you're definitely flying on two engines, and type 2 diabetes should be a non-issue. To your good health, the Elderly Vegan.